Hi, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to start implementing Program 5. So the first thing I'm going to do is launch Visual Studio, and I'm going to make an empty project. Now I do want to point out that if I was working on this project already, I can launch the SLN or the solution. So if I take a look here on my desktop, I was working on Program 4 here, and I have here an SLN from Program 4. So if I launch this SLN, as long as my solution, I was able to create and make a solution, I can relaunch that solution and continue working on it. So this is my Program 4. This was my solution for Program 4, and this is my source code for Program 4. So I can build it and go back and work on it. So I know that everyone kind of has to work out their own way to continue working on your projects. But I just wanted to point out that if you created a project, so I was working on Program 4 and I had to stop, but I compiled it and it was running, but I wasn't able to complete it. If I wanted to go back and continue to work on it, you can launch the solution file, and that will launch the project that you were working on. Now, since I'm starting a new project, I'm going to start from scratch and create a new project. So I'm going to create a new project, and this is my new project for Program 5. I'm going to make sure it's an empty project and that it's so make sure that I select empty project. Do not select console application, select empty project, because we are using a C++ compiler to do C programming. So this is going to be Program 5. I'm going to put it on my desktop. Why not? And so I'm creating a folder on my desktop called Program 5. And I'll update later. Project, add new item. And so this is going to be a source code file, Sorgente program 5.c. All right, so I've created my project and I have my source code here, and now I'm going to go onto Canvas to the assignment, to the Program 5 assignment, and download a couple things. The first thing I'm going to download is the incomplete code. And then the second thing I'm going to download is the account balance file. Now there's a couple ways to make the account balance. You can download it. It just has, or you can create it in Notepad. Just make sure that you name it with the correct name, ACCOUNT capital BALANCE.txt. So I can either this is just a plain text file. See, it opens with Notepad and it has a number in it. It's just a file with a number in it. For this assignment, we're just going to practice reading and writing to files. It's just to practice. So now I'm going to take, this is my source code, and this is my downloads. So I downloaded this source code example off of this is the skeleton to help you get started. So I'm going to copy this into my project, into my source code right here. And I'm going to use the skeleton that I provided to work on this assignment. Now, if you want to start from scratch, that's fine, but I do encourage you to take a look at the skeleton so you can at least understand what I'm looking for, and it might help to answer some of your questions. You know, these programming assignments are exercises to practice. The focus of this assignment is to practice functions, passing things to functions, returning things from functions. So our first function here is the greeting function. It takes note that void here is optional. This void right here is not optional. A function must have a return type. So our first function, it will greet the user, a series of printf statements to greet the user. The second function is the option list function. It's going to declare ask and get a character from the user and return it. Then our process option function is going to take that character and the balance that we get, and it's going to do all of the work of the program. It's going to process the option. It's going to do all of that work and return the updated balance after, if the user buys something or doesn't buy something. And it's going to use these helper functions: display the menu, order price, view balance, reload, and check for enough money. Then we have our main function right here, and we have our function definitions, so there's no excuse that you should most definitely utilize the setup that I have described. No global variables. Put your function prototypes at the top of your program. The comments are there, so there's no reason for you to remove those comments. Those comments describe what your functions do, and the function definitions are placed below the main function. So be sure that you keep that in the same setup as I have described for you. Now, the second thing I want to do is I have this account balance file. So I've downloaded this account balance file, and there's a couple of things I can do. One, I can just save it into my project. So I can say File, Save As. So I just need to navigate on my desktop to my Program5, which is here, and then just save it. So if I go here and look on my desktop in my Program5, the account balance file is in the same directory as my source code. Now, if you notice there's no debug folder here, that's because I haven't compiled yet and created an executable yet. So I've just set up my project. This solution is not a working solution because I have not compiled yet. So if I quit right now and tried to reload it, it would not reload properly. I have to create a working solution in order to reload later. All right, so now let's build it and see what happens. So all I've done so far is I've gone on to Canvas and I have downloaded the incomplete code to get started. I've read the instructions, I know what I have to do, and I have downloaded the account balance file and placed that in the same directory as my source code. My source code is here on my desktop. This is my project folder, Program5, and inside I have this account balance, which is just a text file starts out with $5. You can change it to however amount you want. It does not affect. It only affects on whether or not your user is able to make a purchase. And this is my source code. So now let's compile it and see what happens. All right, so you can see there are a bunch of issues here when I compiled it. This is the sample code that I gave you. There are a lot of warnings. The 8 warnings are not going to stop my program from working, but the error is going to stop my program from working. So let's get that error back here and find out what the error is. So an error is going to prevent my code from compiling. So I have to fix, oh geez, didn't mean to do that. So I need to fix this error right here. And the reason I have an error is because I've declared this variable called choice in main, and then I have a loop that's testing. It's testing the value of this variable. Well, how can it test the value of the variable if the variable doesn't have a value, right? It's testing a value that doesn't exist. So what I really want to do is I want to do the initialization of this. Now, if I want to just get my code to compile, I could just here declare it and initialize it to a Y. So here, the initialization of the variable choice is Y. It's testing, it's not a Q. And now there is no update. So what's going to happen is it's going to compile, and I do have a bunch of warnings, but we will not worry about those warnings at the moment. But if I run it, it's going to have an infinite loop and never stop going because I am not doing anything to update the loop. So the first thing I want to do is get this loop working. So what I went ahead and did was, I think that this is the same loop that was in Program 4. And it is the same loop as in Program 4. So I'm taking out my implementation of Program 4, and all I have to do is copy and paste this from Program 4. And I don't want you to reinvent things. If you've already implemented this in Program 4, this is the same function. This option list function, if you take a look at it, the option list function displays all the choices and gets the choice and returns it. So the function call to option list is going to return a character. That character is going to get assigned to the choice in main. Then I'm going to change it to lowercase by calling the toLower function. And then I'm going to do the same function call for my update. So that was initialization. And then inside of the loop, I'm going to do the same function call for the update. So this is initialization for the loop, this is the test for the loop, and this is the update for the loop. So everything is all done and working, right? Well, no, because just because I have the function prototype for the option list function and the function call for the option list function, I don't think that I have completed the function definition for the option list function. And look here, it's not doing anything, right? This function has a character return type, so I need to declare a local character, use printf statements to display all of the choices that are available, and ask and get and return that choice. Now, thankfully, I've already done that in Program 4. So I can scroll down here into my option list function, and you will see I've done exactly that. Now, if I did not implement Program 4, it's telling you exactly here what you need to do. You need to, actually, I'll do that one step at a time. So I need to declare a local variable. So I did that. Then I need to use a bunch of printf statements to display and explain the choices. So here in my Program 4, I have a bunch of printf statements that display and explain the choices. The options for S, O, B, A, and Q. And then I need to ask, get, and return the choice. And that's a simple enter. Remember, when you're scanning in for a character, remember to add the white space here between the quotation mark and the %C. That just says to ignore the white space that gets read in by the enter key. So now I have my function definition is complete, my option list function. I have a prototype up here that says that the option list function is part of my program, and I'm calling the function. So now let's build it and test it. So let's take a look here at my warnings. So my warnings are here. These are all warnings that are just saying that my other functions must return values, and as each function gets implemented, I will be fixing those warnings. I did want to point out that I've added this extra item here, and because on my compiler I do get a warning here every time that I use scanf, the warning 6031. It's warning me that scanf is not returning a value. And the thing about scanf is that scanf technically returns a value. And because scanf returns a value, when we are using scanf in this way, we are using it as if it were a function that has a void return type. And it's perfectly fine to use it that way. You don't need to check every time to make sure that scanf scanned in So my choice is to add this little statement up here. That's just saying disable the warning 6031 so that when I compile, I don't get that warning. That is, warnings don't even stop your program from working, but I want to be able to, I don't want to have an extra warning every single time I put a scanf in there. So I added this, and it's on the sample code that's provided. If you have any questions, please email me and ask me. So now I built it, and I'm going to make sure that my option list function is working correctly. My options are see the items, make a purchase order, see the balance, add money, quit. Now, obviously, this looks a little different than my sample output. If you guys remember my sample output, it looked like this. I kind of like the way this looks better. You can use your own personality to make your sample output. So if I enter anything other than a Q, it's going to keep going. I'm not processing the option, but Q should quit because the loop here is saying to get the choice, change the choice to lowercase. Make sure the choice is not a Q. Get the choice, change the choice to lowercase. Make sure the choice is not a Q. Get the choice, change the choice to lowercase. Make sure the choice is not a Q. So that is working. The next function I'm going to do is my greeting function, which I already did in program 4. I think I also did it in program 3 as well. I might like my greeting better from program 3. Okay, program 3 greeting is a little different, so I'm just going to, you can write your own greeting, so I'm just going to implement my greeting function. This is the implementation of the greeting. Of course, you should make a better greeting than mine. And I'm down here in the function definition section. And up here, I can, to be complete, I will call my greeting function. My greeting function call is very simple because it is a void return type and it returns nothing. So I just have to call it and add the parentheses. I made some changes, so I like to test and make sure that it's working. The reason you want to test each time to make sure that it's working is because then you will be able to identify at least the area where your problem is. Now I know my greeting function works, and I know my option list function works, and I know that my loop in my main function is working. So if all of that's working, then if I start to have problems later, then I will be able to understand that it's not those two functions that are causing my problems. All right, now in your other program, you declared a balance. So we're going to use a balance. I've already declared it, and you initialized it to $5. Instead of initializing your balance to $5, we're going to connect to the file and read the balance from the file. So first I'm going to connect with an error, and then I'm going to connect properly. So to connect to the file, I declare a file pointer. I've already done that for you. And then I use a function called fopen to connect, not read, to connect to the file. Fopen is a function that's part of stdio.h, and inside of fopen, I'm going to say what I want to connect to. I want to connect to the account balance.txt file. I put the name of the file in parentheses. Now, because I have placed the account balance file in the same directory as my source code, I do not need to put a path like C whatever and tell it to find it. It's going to find it because it's in the same directory. Now, I purposely spelled it wrong to show you what an error looks like when you do not properly connect to the file. The second argument I need to pass to the fopen function is a letter in either an R or a W. An R is passed to the function to indicate that I want to read from the file. So this pointer right here, once I connect to the file, which it's not going to connect because I spelled it wrong, then I can read data from the file. So let's test it and see what happens. Okay. All right, so what happened? So I connected to the file, but the reason that I didn't have an error yet is because it thinks that it opened the file, but I didn't actually try to use it. So what's going to cause an error is when I write my fscanf and actually try to use it. So fscanf works exactly like scanf, only the first argument you pass to fscanf is going to be the file pointer. So I pass the file pointer. This is the name of my file pointer, in pointer. And then I want to read, what am I reading from the file? I am reading a double, so I use %lf. And then I want to read into my variable called balance in main. So the only difference between this and getting the balance from a file is that instead of assigning a value to our balance, we're going to get the balance from the file. Then I just want to print onto the screen. This is not required, but I want to make sure it works. So I'm going to print it onto the screen and make sure that it works. And later you're going to put that balance into a function, but right now, while you're building and you're testing, the best thing you can do while you're building your programs is to add a bunch of printf statements so that you can follow along what's happening. So now let's compile it and see what happens. And oh, look at that. That should not have worked. Okay, so that's interesting because it should totally not have worked because I spelled account balance wrong. So these compilers are getting smarter and smarter every year. So now let's see what happens. Now it should crash. All right, so this is the crash. This crash means it did not find the input file. This is what it looks like when you try to connect to a file and you do not find the file. All right, in this class, we're not going to spend time finding out if you connected to the file. What we're going to do is it's going to crash right now if you don't get to the file. In your foundations class, you will error check to make sure that you properly connect to the file. In this class, it's not required because we have so many other things to focus on. And it really should not have found the file because I didn't spell it right, but for some reason it did. All right, so let's try again. Okay, it connected, and now we're going to, the balance is $5, and that's working. So now we have our balance. We don't really need that printf anymore. And we're going to now move on to the next steps of the program. We've been able to connect to the file. Now we want to call our process option function. Our process option function. So let's see what our process option function does. What did the process option function do in program 4? The process option function in program 4 did not deal with the balance because in program 4 we didn't use a balance. So the process option function here is a little bit different. This function is going to take two arguments. One is the choice that I've just gotten and one is the balance, and then it's going to return the updated balance, which will be the balance after a purchase has been made or after any reloads have been done. So how do we call this function? This is where we're going to call the function here. So if you take a look at it, this function is going to take two arguments. It's going to take the choice, and it's also going to take the balance, which we do have a value for that. We could not pass the balance or the choice to the function because it's going to have to make a copy and have those values. Oh, that was the wrong function. Oops. I'm down here. Okay, this function also has the process option also has a double return type. So just like you did your reload function in program 3, you're going to pass the balance before you process the option and then it's going to return the new balance. So again, it's a little bit confusing in programming how you're going to pass it one balance, say $5, and then it's going to make a purchase, and then the new balance is going to be 32 cents. And then the user decides they want to add money. It would pass the 32 cents, you add the $15, and then the new balance would be $15.32. So it kind of works the same way that your reload function worked. So let's go down and take a look at our function definition for process option. So process option is going to get the choice. So what's going to happen is it's going to make its own copy of the choice in main. So it's going, this is like saying char choice equals, wait, what is the name of the variable? Here. So when this function gets called, it's just like saying char choice equals choice in main. That's what's happening right here in this first parameter. And double balance equals balance in main. So when you make your function call and you pass it, let's take this function call here. Okay, so this is what the function call looks like. You're going to pass it the choice in main, and this choice is going to get declared and assigned that value. So if the value is S, it'll be char choice equals S. If choice in main was Q, no, not Q, because that stops the loop. If choice in main is A, it'll be char choice equals A. But because it's a function parameter, it does that automatically. And here, double balance is going to equal whatever the balance is. So at this point, it starts out that it's $5. So when this function gets called, it's just like saying double balance equals $5 the first time the function is called. Again, it's done automatically, but that's what it's doing behind the scenes. And then when this function is complete, this whole function right here, this whole function call right here is going to have a double that needs to be assigned somewhere. And the double that it's going to return will then be assigned back to the balance. Like I said, if it came in as that's $5 and then you bought something and there's 32 cents left, then the new balance would be 32 cents. This is how you're sharing the values between your function and your main function. This is the whole fundamental thing you need to learn about functions. So this process function is going to process the option, the S, the O, and the other ones. So what I'm going to do is go to my program 4, and I'm going to, since I've already done this, in my program 4. It saves me from having to type it all out again. I'm going to add this here and take a look. So if it's S, I'm going to display the menu. I'm going to have to call the display. I have all these typing errors. That's all right. I'm going to have to call the display the menu function, which I haven't implemented yet. So I just put a statement here that says display the menu. O, I'm going to complete an order. Well, this is a little more, this program is not going to, check if there's enough money, and if it's not, then it's going to call the balance function. So I should have left some of those comments here from program 5. So this is actually what it's going to do on O. So I'm going to print this message here. Okay, order. All right, just so this is going to take a little time to implement the O, but I just put a message here so I can test to make sure it works with an O. And then we're going to have to use all of these other functions to actually make an order. If choice is B, then it's the balance. If choice is A, we add money, and anything else it's not recognized, and then we want to return the balance. So the balance is going to come in to this function, It's going to be $5 right now. And one by one, we're going to implement all of these options. And if any of these options change the value of the balance, then we're going to return the new balance. But right now, I need to just test this function to make sure that it works. And then in the next videos, we will work on one by one processing each of these options. So let's test it with each option. I still have some warnings because I have not done anything with my out pointer, and some of my functions still have to return something, but that shouldn't stop me from testing. All right, so I'm going to test each option. S, I'm going to display the menu. O, I'm going to make an order. B, I'm going to display the account balance. A, I'm going to add money to the account. D, that's not recognized. Q, quits. All right, so we're on our way, and in the next video, we will do all of the rest of the functions.